Knowledge thrives in discussion. Subscribe to Humanity Fudge, like this record, and leave your analysis in the comments. Bell alert engaged for future data.
Fantail's cruel shadow no longer lingered so often over the command center. For the past 2 days, there had been no infractions that he could use to spin the Admiral's opinions. So he fled for the security of his sulking quarters, mortified by the humans' ability to reason and restrain their instinct for rebellion, and the possibility he was wrong. Fairwing could see why his rival fought so hard for his machinations. Pride stirred in his heart when his own plans bore fruit on the screen. The humans were proving themselves reasonable and civilized compared to the savage brutes the avians around him expected. They seemed to grasp the consequences of disobedience, and under Keen's leadership they eagerly threw themselves into their physical training. The Admiral especially appreciated this last point, judging by the quiet pleasure on his face. The Admiral extended the exercise privilege to all the holds aboard the flagship not long after Keen's group finished their first day of training. None of these holds were as well organized, but none of them decided to revolt either while surrounded by baton-wielding guards. They settled for lazy jogs and unmotivated push-ups. On the third morning since they began their training, Keen's group filed into the spine just as they had done for the past 2 days. An especially sublime joy gripped Fairwing when the defeated Fantail finally arrived in the command center after his 2-day hiatus. The xenologist glared at the beaming xenographer.
I haven't seen you for some time, Fantail,
Fairwing said gleefully.
I've been studying the archives we brought aboard from your observation post.
Fantail replied with all the disdain he could muster. On the largest screen in the command center, several pairs of eyes watched as Keen's group floated up the spine, flanked by 4 guards as they had been before. Fairwing's own eyes were drawn by a sudden movement on the screen. A woman flew down the side of the formation heading towards the back. She silently nodded, and 4 others at the end of the line, 2 men and 2 women, turned and faced the 2 guards floating behind them. Pushing off their own people, they launched themselves at the guards, who were caught completely unawares. Untranslated shouts filled the speakers. In the scuffle, the batons were torn from the guards' wings and jabbed into their own ribs. The line had crawled to a halt. The other 2 guards at the front had flown back to assist their comrades. One particularly large human pushed off the wall and charged the guard on the left. They collided and kept flying into the opposite wall, where they landed with a crash. The avian shrieked in pain. Fairwing cringed. The other guard was dispatched by another baton. Now the humans had no one left to stop them.
Are you blind?
Fantail screeched at the astonished crew in the command center.
Deploy lanthanum gas immediately.
They hesitated. The xenologist was a scientist, not their superior officer.
Wait!
Fairwing called, pointing back to the screen. Another human angrily faced the mutineers. Fairwing's hopes for cooler heads rose in his chest. The man charged the woman Fairwing had seen earlier. Unfortunately for him, now she was armed. With one blow from the baton, Fairwing's hopes were dashed. The woman threw the stunned man into one of the other mutineers' arms.
Now, deploy the gas!
Fantail repeated. This time the crew obeyed. The humans could hear the hiss of gas moments later. They shouted to each other and quickly donned the masks their avian guards had been wearing. As their fellows passed out, the mutineers remained unaffected.
What? How did they know that would work?
Cried Fantail.
They gambled on it,
gritted Fairwing.
Admiral on deck,
the sentry reported. Everyone stood. The old avian waved them down.
Status?
He asked as he took his seat.
The humans in Keen's group have mutinied, sir.
Fairwing answered.
And Keen?
He's not one of them. There's only 5 that have rebelled.
But if not for lanthanum gas, there might have been 100.
Fantail interrupted.
They've commandeered our own gas masks. Lanthanum gas won't do any more.
Fairwing countered.
Sound the boarding alarm,
The Admiral ordered. The lights in the spine bathed everyone in red. Klaxons blared in the distance. Around their section of the spine, hatches began to fall, sealing them. One of Valerie's mutineers flew to escape.
Sarah, stay together!
Valerie called. Reluctantly, the mutineer withdrew and let the hatch close in front of her. Now the four of them were completely trapped. A digital bird's voice squawked from some unseen intercom. The metal band on an unconscious guard's leg helpfully translated it.
The ship has been boarded. All Marines, report to your stations. All hands, prepare to repel boarders. The ship has been boarded.
What do we do now?
The hooded man asked Valerie. She glanced at her watch and swore.
We started 3 minutes early, thanks to that bird lover.
She stuck a thumb at the sleeping shape of Max.
But assuming this message is getting broadcast to the whole ship, they'll know to pick up the pace.
She cast her gaze on the hatch in front of them.
All we need to do is wait.
The sentry at the command center door had been replaced by a whole team of Marines, their faces crimson lit.
We have them surrounded, Admiral.
Fantail pointed at the trapped humans on screen.
Send the Marines in and put them down.
Please, Admiral, this is just a momentary lapse of judgment.
Fairwing sputtered.
They've injured, if not outright killed, 4 of the ship's crew.
Fantail cawed. Admiral Roundclaw eyed the xenographer.
You have not been with the fleet long, so I will excuse your pleas. But we have a very simple rule. Death to mutineers.
Fairwing gulped.
Captain, get your Marines down to them. Take out the mutineers and spare the rest.
The ship's captain nodded and relayed the Admiral's orders.
With respect, Admiral, we have no idea how widespread this mutiny actually is. It could be that all of them wanted to revolt, but there were only masks for 4.
That's a lie and you know it.
Fairwing shot back at the xenologist.
You saw that man oppose them.
1 in 100 is the exception, not the rule.
We will decide what to do with the rest later.
The Admiral began to say before being cut off by an urgent call from an officer.
Sir, you should see this.
The lieutenant put a new camera feed on the main screen. The hatch to hold 78 had a hole cut right through the middle of it. Melting metal still dribbled orange hot from around the edge. The cameras showed hold 78 was empty of its 100 pieces of cargo.
Find them!
The Admiral roared.
Contact!
A voice on one of their side screens squawked. The lieutenant enlarged it on the main view. It was the helmet camera of a Marine, staring down a crowd of humans.
Get back!
He ordered. His digital translator barked some kind of mammalian grunt. The humans disobeyed and surged forward. He raised his gun at them. With pneumatic force, it flung out a burst of low-velocity slugs. They struck several in the crowd with wet thumps. The bodies disappeared under the charging mob. He fired again, but they were already on top of him.
Deploy gas there now!
The helmet and its camera was picked up by a human male. He placed it over his own head. The avians watched with horror as he picked up the fallen Marine's rifle. They had defeated the Marines who guarded the top of the holds, but a quick glance back gave the avians a survey of the cost. Clouds of droplets rippled out from a few dozen lifeless bodies, while the rest, who were unable to pick up the Marines' helmets in time, had slipped into their own gas-fed sleep. The human turned back around and joined his comrades. One of them didn't carry a gun, but what everyone in the command center recognized as a laser cutter. Where the humans had found one was anyone's guess, but they had one now. They watched them cut through hatch after hatch in the spine, finally reaching the section containing Keen's group. When the mutineer climbed through the hole, his helmet camera shone on the masked face of a woman wielding a baton.
Glad you could make it,
She said. This isn't just a story, it's survival. Subscribe to Humanity Fudge. New chapters await.